Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Apex Racing TV and the Radical Cup iRacing Invitational. This is the final round of the season, and what better place to bring it to you from than the Road America circuit, of course, in the United States, in Wisconsin. Andrew Woodhouse alongside Tom Drewer with Scott Newton on the cameras. And Tom, Road America, it's one of those circuits that we always love coming to here on the channel because it will test every single aspect of your car.
Absolutely. Road America with a huge history in motorsport in North America. One of the original circuits on the continent. A lot of famous races have taken place, and hopefully this one will go down in history as well. A championship on the line today, and as it would be, I think it's only Mark Tranter who's got the opportunity to take that top spot in the points away from Zachary Woolen, and Tranter having a pretty miserable qualifying session at the moment.
Yeah, so Woolen is on 132 points, but he's not here today. Anderson is on 96 points, but it doesn't look like he's here today. So Mark Tranter on 96 points, with 40 points available for the win, is the only person, as Tom said, that can take the title away from Woolen. But it's going to be a tall order for Tranter because at the moment, well, he's down in 13th place, and that's not where anybody wants to be. 25 drivers in the session, and so he's slap bang in the middle, Tom, and he's going to have to pull off something really spectacular if he wants those 40 points.
Absolutely. There's only minutes remaining as well, so what can he do? That's the question. We're looking at Tom Mills at the moment, obviously the winner from last week, and Mills, quite a fierce competitor. Some of the message boards have been saying, but he said that he didn't make any touches last week. I guess everyone's got a different opinion on that, but he did come away with a win in the end, and looking pretty racy here again. 5th fastest at the moment. The Canadian, though, Alex Ellis, he's done an astounding time, a 1:59.4 to be on provisional pole.
Yeah, that's a brilliant lap from Ellis, really showing his quality. Mackay Stevens in second as well. Paul Crabb in third, Dan Webster in fourth. Those four actually well clear of everyone else. 7 tenths between 4th place Webster and 5th place Mills. Here is Mills then, who won last time out. And let's see what he can do. 2 minutes by 6. So he doesn't improve at all. There's Mills. Here's Marcus Zunker. He's down in 20th place. What can he do? And he doesn't improve either. So not a lot of improvement at the end of the session, seems. And so it means that maybe the track conditions not ideal. Jan Sotelo, we're looking at him there. Damage to the rear of the car, which isn't going to be helping, and that won't help either. And there's just a bit of more damage he's collected there, Tom, coming out of the last corner.
Yes, an easy thing to do sometimes, to get on the outside curb and just hook it back onto the inside of the circuit and into the wall. But a little bit of using all the track there from the shell car, and we'll see how these times sort of flush out as we're actually under checkered flag conditions. So everyone that's finishing a lap now will still have this lap count.
Yeah, Canadian Keith Carter came across. He didn't improve. 2 Keith Carters in the race as well, for those at home who are just tuning in for the first time. We've yet to see, Tom, the Keith Carter off, have we, in this series? So we might get it. Hopefully we'll get it in this one. I've been waiting for those two to do battle on the track all day, all series long.
Not sure how we call that, mate.
My money's on Keith.
So it's interesting. You mentioned before about the track conditions. It's actually, in terms of the time that we've set up for this event, it is live. So the track conditions generated by iRacing are live for today in terms of the time. So as the day warms up here, it'll be warming up in the virtual world as well.
And you know what? That'll be what's causing the lack of improvement. And it's slightly warmer. not quite the grip that there was maybe at the start of the session. I just wanted to come to you though quickly before we come to the start. We've had 6 races in this Radical Cup iRacing Invitational, and what has it meant for you as someone who works for the company, and also, you're proud of what we've put together? Are you happy to see what the future of Radical Sports Cars will be?
Well, I'm just amazed at the uptake, to be honest. When we started this, we weren't sure whether we'd get sort of 10 drivers involved or what. And the response from the Radical community, drivers from all around the world, be it London, Europe, we've seen, the Canadian flag, the Australian flag, Jamaican flag, you name it, on this grid. And it's just been fantastic to see Radical's Race the World concept come to life, albeit virtually. We've often had drivers from the UK come and compete in America, or the Americans go over and compete in England, and we've seen others, go to Bathurst or some of these other iconic circuits that Radical race in. So it's just fantastic to see this actually come to fruition. And have all of these nationalities competing, because it is the best of Radical races from around the world. And of course, some of the best races from the iRacing platform. And that's also been really exciting to see drivers that have only, if you like, been involved with the brand from a virtual perspective, actually get to participate against real world drivers. And my God, are the iRacers good?
Yeah, and it's been great to see them sort of mingling together in 2 groups. We're going to go down to the grid though now, as here it is on the screen, and Alex Ellis takes pole position, and he's putting the marker down for the last round of the season. Mackay Stevens in second, ahead of Paul Crabb. Then it's Dan Webster, and then 0.7 of a second gap back to reigning race winner Tom Mills. Christian Budu Singh is in 6th place, with Cyril Stanke 7th and Joshua Peacock 8th. 9th for Horatio Brown, and then Keith Carter, the Canadian one, in 10th. Dave Tweedley in 11th, and Darrell Taylor is 12th. 13th, Mark Tranter, then he's charged to the championship. Well, it's going to have to come from a long way backward, but we're interested to see if he can indeed get something going from that position on the grid. 14th is Paul Clark, Chris Short in 15th, and then American Keith Carter in 16th, Michael Anzaldi in 17th, and Jan Sotelo in 18th. 19th for Patrick Jamin, and Kamari Odom down in 20th. That's surprising. Marcus Dunker 21st and 22nd for Jeremy Franco. Pravin Law is 23rd, and Tad Cusack 24th. And then David Jarvis will be all the way at the back. And that's surprising, Tom, given the fact that Jarvis is normally one of the front runners.
Absolutely. Jarvis, of course, second last weekend. So perhaps he's just looking for the hard charge. Interesting to note, a couple of these drivers, Mike Anzaldi, Tad Cusack, and some others, racing next weekend. Dave Tweedley will be at the front of this V8 field next weekend for the real world race, our first event of 2020 in the Blue Marble Radical Cup North America Series, as the cars get underway here for what will be a long pace lap under the safety car, so a full lap of this circuit. And I guess we're going to... Yeah, I guess we're going to have some time to kill here, but that's good.
Every time we come here, it's always the spectre of the full pace lap hanging over us.
So we mentioned that yes, next weekend we'll be doing this in real life, and it's exciting to have the racing go back live around the world. Of course, so many of our competitors, albeit in England or America or all across the world, just itching to get back behind the wheel. And to go back to your earlier question, I think that's what's been so fantastic about this series, is it has given drivers an outlet and an opportunity to sort of brush off the cobwebs a bit and get that competitive juices flowing. And we've certainly seen some fantastic racing. I mean, I think of the caliber of racing over the last few weeks. Those fantastic battles, some mishaps, of course, and some commotion, but that's what racing's all about, isn't it?
There's always mishaps in racing, isn't it? It doesn't matter whether it's virtual, whether it's real world. you know, horse racing, anything. There's always things that go wrong. But that's the thing. I think what's been frustrating, I imagine, for the drivers in 2020 so far is I think most people in life are quite content if something they're going to do gets cancelled and they know it's not going to happen, then I think people can cope with that. I think, Tom, it's kind of the delay, isn't it? It's a bit like the purgatory of not really knowing when you're going to go racing again. And that's the thing for these guys. You know, at one bit they didn't know whether it was going to be 2 weeks or 2 months, and that's the real issue, isn't it? And there, by the way, is that they're no longer their sausage bridge, which is not no longer with us.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do. We still are having some hospitality for the teams, albeit under social distancing circumstances next week. But I don't know what we'll be eating. It's an amazing corner, the carousel here at Road America. For those that want to know what it's like driving in a real car, you're gritting your teeth the whole time and trying to push the pedal down. Of course, as you're coming through the corner, putting more and more lock into the car, you're scrubbing speed. But my God, it doesn't really feel like you can put any more power down. And then, of course, you come out pulling gears and through the famous kink here. Big accidents throughout the years. There's tyre marks on the inside of the wall leading down from outside of the kink. And, you know, just a reminder to all the drivers that if they push too hard and drop a wheel to the outside, you know, it's game over big time. And then a big braking mark, a moment down into turn 12, the Canada corner. And, you know, that should provide some exciting action. This corner, these last couple of corners here, they're fast and flowing in the V8s. Awesome stuff. You know, we will see next weekend, as we'll see here today, guys just gritting their teeth again, trying to be flat through here. And then you've got to get all the exit speed for this final corner onto the main straightaway, because this straight is one of the longest in North America as the pace car goes in. The drivers are maintaining a pretty good pace here. We'll see what happens on this start. Andrew, I feel like it's going to all unravel in a moment with some action.
Here we go. Green light is on at Road America. We're racing.
Oh, and I think there was already a bit of argy-bargy in the background.
Oh, it's huge.
Unbelievable.
It's massive. Absolutely humongous crash on the main straight. Oh dear, some of them haven't even crossed the line yet.
So this is going to be a tale of two races, I think. There's the race that's happening right now. It's Joshua Peacock.
Oh, and it's all kicking off again. Tom, sorry, but turn 2 has claimed about another half dozen. My goodness. And Mark Tranter's got through it. He's up into 7th place. Well,
so
I say he's got through it. In what state, I'm not sure. But he's 6 places up from where he started. There he is, no damage. And that's very important for him.
So what can Tranter do? The field has been cleaned out, if you like.
Oh.
Tranter, has he got a little bit of damage on the rear of the car? But what can he do from this? Alex Ellis.
Well, it's 6th place, isn't it, basically, for Tranter, because we've got the car at the top. Just if you're new to the channel, the way the timing works, if someone retires to the pits on the first lap, it will show for 1 lap at the top of the timing screen. So Joshua Peacock not leading. We're looking at the leader now. Alex Ellis, he is in 1st place. Stevens is in 2nd. 3rd is Webster. Buddy Singh is in 4th. And then Carter in 5th. And then Tranter in 6th. But look at the overspeed as Stevens. Oh! And he just touches the grass with 1 wheel going into Canada corner, Tom. And it was almost disaster, but he kept it well.
Yeah, the cold tyres, I guess, on the first racing lap here. And we saw the incidents. Amazing, really, because we had that long warm-up lap. Perhaps it just put the drivers to sleep. Who knows? But what I was saying is... Sorry, I wonder if someone...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say quickly, it's almost 2 races now, because there's going to be so many people using that quick reset to get back in this motor race. Of course, they can. So it's a case of who can press those buttons in the cockpit fast enough and reset the cars and get back out there. I'm sure we're going to see some hard charges.
Tranter's in the pits, Tom. So he must have just decided that he's going to come in, he's going to repair the damage and see where he goes from there. Might be sensible in the end. But yeah, no safety cars in this Radical Cup iRacing Invitational, as Mackay Stevens then goes down the inside into turn 5, but he doesn't keep it. Ellis gets the cutback, stays on the inside, keeps the advantage.
Such a tight corner, that left-hander, and Ellis has managed to stay in the lead. So Mackay Stevens, of course, representing Team Stradale and Autobahn Country Club. We'll see them represented in the real world next weekend as well. He's doing a sterling job in second place. He just loses a little bit around the carousel there, it seems. Dan Webster in third place. He'll be one to watch in this motor race. Kamari Odom, look at that, up into sixth place. So there's been some movers and shakers. He's got some damage, but at the moment, I guess if he can keep the track position, we'll see how that unfolds for the rest of the race. It's early on. There's about 30 minutes left remaining, so Kamari...
Oh, Stevens is taking the lead.
And look at that. Dave Tweedley, the 65, also with heavy damage on the rear of the car. He's one of our real-world competitors. If you want an amazing video, watch his tyre blowout from last year at Road America into Turn 1. A huge moment at the end of the main straight. Just a freak thing. Must have picked up some debris on the circuit.
Sorry to butt in, Tom, but Ellis is in trouble. He's lost the lead. He's lost second place now to Dan Webster.
So what has happened, Andrew? The car looks fine, doesn't it? We'll see on the replay.
Might just be legitimate overtakes. We know that this car does promote some great slipstreaming and some terrific overtaking. Oh, there's very nearly disaster, but Stevens, great move, lovely judgment, hard on the brakes, and really gave Ellis no choice but to concede that one. And then I wonder if Webster, we're going to follow this one. I imagine Webster just gets a nice run up the main straight.
Yeah, look at this. So that long straightaway, and he does. He just launches off the final corner, getting much better minimum corner speed through, and just carries it down the main straightaway into turn 1. So, but if you like, Alex, we saw it last week. A lot of this racing at these tracks with so much as the cone goes flying, with so much straightaway and the possibility to slipstream and overtake relatively easily, this is going to be a bit of a game of chess. There's no point sort of fighting too hard for the lead at the start of this motor race. You've got to sit back and work out what your strengths are, where you want to position the car, where you want to be on those final few laps, and then where do you want to be on that final corner. I don't know if you want to be in the lead of this motor race, exiting the final corner on the last lap.
Oh no, that's going to be very, very difficult. This was what I was sort of getting at before, but there was so much going on I couldn't really say it. I wonder if, because now for the leaders at the start, Kamari Odom out, apparently. Oh, well, don't know what's happened to Kamari, but we'll try and get that back for you in a moment. But I wonder if, so for the leaders at the start here, it is prudent to wait for the green flag to come, because the closer you can get to turn 1, the less chance you have of getting out dragged into the first corner on the start. Fair enough. But I wonder, Tom, if some people at the back or in the middle got a little bit eager, tried to get a jump maybe before the green flag, and it might have caused some of that nonsense that I wonder, Scott, if we can get a replay of the start potentially, and see if we can maybe even figure out, Tom, what caused all that nonsense.
It would be interesting to see. Of course, Mark Tranter, we're following around the circuit at the moment. The 16, he can win the championship, and here we go for that replay. So keep an eye on Mark Tranter. But look at this. So the pace car comes in. The cars are doing a great job. This is side by side, like we want to see. Basically 2 rows. So what happens now as they go up the hill? As you can see some brake lights on. Keith Carter goes for it.
Oh, he gets sandwiched.
So that was just, I gotta say, Keith Carter, he decided to go for it. Everyone else reacted midway down the pack, and look at that, absolute carnage.
Somebody got tipped up and over. Yeah, this is what we're going to see from Kamari Odom's point of view, well, from the chopper at least. Oh, there were 4 wide in the middle. That'll be wide then. So it might not have just been Carter, Tom. I think there was someone else trying to go through on him and the 2 cars in front. And then we'll see. In fact, we'll follow it further round. Oh, I was gonna say, can we stick? Oh, we'll look at Cusack. So this is Cusack. He's in seventh place currently. So he started in 24th. You can see they're already crashing before the start, look. But here goes Cusack then. He gets a very bad jump, but this might end up saving him, Tom, as he approaches the line. Look at that. He gets right on the brakes. He does completely the right thing.
Look at this chaos and carnage. And he's just trying to wait. So this is amazing, isn't it? I mean, not good to see. Thank God this is in the virtual world, and we can have a bit of a laugh over it. But look at this! Look at this racing at the front of the field. Mackay Stevens looking to the outside. Alex Ellis keeping it tight, protecting his lead, or hoping to do so. A little bit of dust kicks up. And
I will say that we were looking at Cusack, and like I say, up to 7th place. That shows really what keeping it clean will do. Ellis hangs on to the lead. I think we've already had 3 or 4 different leaders. Also, Christian Budu Singh has caught the back of this group as well in 4th position. Not quite sure where he's from. Just says the international region, but right on the back of this group, only half a second behind Webster. So if he can stay close, Tom, he might be able to take advantage.
Buddha Singh, I can tell you, is from Trinidad. So
oh, nice.
One of our Caribbean Cup drivers, and doing a tremendous job, as you say. This is turning into a 4-way motor race. So Alex Ellis, he's done a remarkable job, hasn't he, as the flames belch out of the 400 horsepower V8, the Radical SR8, but he's done a good job of keeping everyone else at bay. He seems to know where to place the car, and he certainly gets a great run out of the final corner. We'll see if the slipstream plays any role as Mackay Stevens, we're looking back at, tries to close in as we approach turn 1.
So hard to make any gap here though, and then keep it. Slipstream very, very strong in these radicals, but you know, if you keep it clean around Road America, you've got a good chance of doing what you need to do. And see Paul Crabb making his way through the field as well, in the on the timing tower. Here he is actually going past Keith Carter. So Carter and Crabb both with new cars, Tom, and on their way pretty nicely. Yeah,
absolutely. And just in front of them, Kamari Odom. So I think he's still circulating, mate. I keep seeing the timing screen. Oh, yeah, he is. So I can see it flashed on there out of the race and perhaps into pit lane, so maybe an incident for him. That, of course, releases Paul Crabb and Keith Carter to continue their move up the field. Mark Tranter is next in their sights. So Tranter, the one with the championship hopes, he's going to have to get a hurry on. Perhaps he can use some of these guys charging up through the field to just, get in, tuck in behind them. Keeping their slipstream and move up with them.
Yeah, we're looking at the sector times at the bottom just to see the difference between Darrell Taylor and Mark Tranter. And Taylor with a good lap so far, gaining 0.7 of a second on Tranter. So I wonder if it's off goes. I think one of the back markers. I'm not quite sure who that was. Somebody off in the grass there. So let's have a little reset then. So Stevens leads, Ellis second, Webster third for now, although Webster is making a move on Ellis as we speak for second place. Budisting is 4th, Carter is 5th, 6th is Tweedley, and then Cusack we're looking at in 7th, and then Mills is 8th and Taylor is 9th.
Oh, Mills pops. Mills has got the run. So this is out of the kink and down into Canada quarter. Mills cuts across back onto the racing line. Beautiful job. A nice pass. And Tom Mills now up to 7th place. So he's charging pretty hard, isn't he?
You know what, Tom? That Cusac's car looks like it's handling slightly strangely. I wonder. It almost looks like it's crabbing slightly. I don't know if you can see that.
I think there was a little bit of damage to his
rear
wing.
He's holding the wheel to the right, look, on the straight.
Yeah, so a stricken car. So he didn't perhaps survive that main straight melee like we thought he did. Perhaps it just got tagged a little bit somewhere. But he's doing a great job. I mean, he's decided to stick out there. Look at that. He hasn't had any stops. And he was one of the last. Oh, he keeps it off the wall, though. And a little bit of pressure, perhaps, with that crabbing car. So it's Tom Mills and Darrell Taylor goes through.
You know what?
Tom Mills, the fastest, if you like, of the guys that have had to reset their cars.
It's worth Cusack coming in now, I think, and changing his car, because he's got 11 seconds to Paul Crabb, and he's got 30 seconds to David Jarvis, or 35 seconds to David Jarvis in 13th. I think he might as well come in, get his repairs done now, get a clean car that he can drive properly, and come out with, you know, relatively low losses. Here's Mills.
And look behind Mills. Look behind at Dave Tweedley. His car is so damaged. There is so much crash damage on the Golf-coloured car. Great to see some historic livery of Golf, one of our sponsors for the Radical Cup North America Series.
It is one of my favourite jokes of the series, though. It does look like one of those, one of the stock cars, doesn't it? With the like one-sided, with the asymmetric wing on there.
That's it. We're running stagger. I think
you might be giving him grip in some corners and not others.
That's right. I don't know whether that's best on the right-handers or the left-handers. Hopefully around
Taylor's
here it's the right-handers. So it's an interesting motor race, and we're watching Cyril Stanke as well.
Well, the great thing about the race, though, Tom, is that we've still got a battle for the lead. And often when you get these races that are quite disrupted by accidents, you don't have a lead battle worthy of its salt. But having said that, we seem to have had that a lot this season, haven't we? Amongst all the chaos, we've usually had a fight at the front, and that's what's made this series so exciting.
Absolutely. Well, Mackay Stevens has managed to get a little gap now. So it was before it was Ellis that was doing a good job. Now it's Mackay who's in the lead and having his run at the front. Interestingly enough, we mentioned Buddha Singh before doing a sterling job to get up to this pack.
Oh, crash! Webster.
So that was Webster. He's in the wall. He's stuck in the wall. So a huge accident for Dan Webster. So what has happened here? Did he get a touch? We're on board now.
I think he's lost the rear in the middle of the carousel. Oh, he's got to hit the grass, Tom.
Oh, he does. He catches the grass. Oh, that's disaster. A massive accident. He's tasting that tyre wall. And you know, it's so easy to do. That corner is... you'll actually see that the sports car, the GT guys, will actually try and hook their right wheel in on the inside of that curb and almost use it. They cut down tyres sometimes and damage wheels. Use it as a rail, exactly. And hook into that inside, but that's not going to work with a Radical, whether it's in the real life or...
Well, he didn't hit the curb, did he? He hit the grass. So
yeah.
So if he was trying to hook the curb, he misjudged
the Jamaican now, Hereditary Brown, 15th place and having a good battle. So Chris Short in the car 11 in 14th, just in front of him. So this is another good one. A little battle for some of these guys that were involved in incidents.
So we've got 7 drivers who haven't made a pit stop in the top 10. That is Stevens, Ellis, Buddha-Singh, Carter, Taylor, Tweedley, Cusack. To be honest, Tweedley and Cusack should pit because they're running around in 2 minutes 6 when the leaders are doing 2 minutes 1. Crabb's been in, Carter hasn't. Yeah, I've never seen. I don't think there's been a race I've commentated on in a long time with such discrepancy of times. As Short goes off, and then as there was some connection issues, I think he might have been collected by Brown, but I think even if he was, we wouldn't know it because we couldn't see it.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? But Brown's got damage, so there was definitely a touch there, and Brown now limping down the straightaway. I think he's into pit lane, so that's disaster for him.
This is his first stop, though, so he will get the fast repair this time and get back out on the track. So it's not an utter disaster for Brown. It's just not what he wanted, ideally. So
this reminds me a little bit of a wet race. Of course, it's not raining here, but it's that similar thing of, do you remain out on the tyre, even if it's slower, or do you come in and change the tyre that the front runners are running? And that's what it's kind of like for someone like Dave Tweedley. And he's running inside the top 10. Of course, he's got a horrible car. It's not set up for the conditions out there. But what does he do? Does he just try and stick it out?
The problem that Tweedley's got, though...
No!
Oh, dear, there goes Paul Crabb.
And Paul Crabb's got caught out by the car in front. Tad Kuzak has had a moment all by himself, and Crabb just nowhere to go, gets collected. We'll watch the replay here. So on board with Tad Kuzak. And now we're on board with Crabb, so we'll see what happens. Kuzak, that's down into turn 5. He just runs wide, gets over the bumps of the curb, and both of them into the wall. And it reminds me of a moment that Indiana Miller had in the 1500s last year here at Road America. We're looking forward to seeing him.
Just slightly wide for Cusack. David Jarvis started at the back, and he was involved in the first lap mayhem, but he's got a clean car now, and he's lapping quite well. He's about a second slower than the leaders, but to be honest, Tom, as you were saying about the wet race and the discrepancies in times, he's still 3 seconds quicker than the car in front of him, which is Mark Tranter. So Tranter, uncharacteristically struggling out there, really is. Like, those times aren't really what he's used to. He's used to putting together. He's usually a top driver in the series. Dan Webster's come back out and has actually set his fastest lap of the race, I think, after he's had a reset.
Well, Jarvis, of course, second last week. He is a strong driver behind the wheel of the SR8 on iRacing. And we'll see how far he can get up through the field. Just inside the top 10, up 15 places.
You know what? Can we get a look at Webster's car after we see this replay? Because I wonder, actually, Tom, if Webster managed to get it out of the wall, because I'm not sure he's been in the pits yet. It says 0 stops on our timing screen for Dan Webster. So I wonder if he actually got it out of the wall. So I mean, he lost 4 minutes doing it, but...
The replay of Cyril Stanke that we're watching at the moment just showed Crabb slow on the side of the track. So here's Dan Webster.
Car looks fine.
1-1-1. Yeah.
Oh! So he has been in the pits.
So that was Dan Webster, the replay of him going into the wall.
Back to the front, and Alex Ellis continues to lead. It's been a really nice drive from Ellis so far, Tom, hasn't it?
It's been pretty classy from the Canadian. Ellis representing Radical Canada East. Robert Burgess looks after that dealership, and we're waiting for the borders to open between America and Canada so that his drivers can come down and compete in the North American Championship. It's a real shame they won't be at Road America next weekend, but they're out at the track this weekend, so a lot of his competitors finally out at the track and running around in the real world. It's just so lovely to hear that.
How do you, sorry.
No, go ahead, Andrew.
I was going to say, how do you think that this race meeting and being able to do the practice for a few hours on the sim this week will help people when we finally go back racing the Blue Marble Cocktails Radical Cup?
I think it will be a huge help. I mean, we've mentioned a few of the drivers that are competing next weekend. Dave Tweedley being one of them. He's a front runner. Being on the sim, it gets your eye in the game. You know, It gives you the corners, perhaps the braking markers, and the way the car feels is a little bit different. But that is something that's getting closer all the time. Last week we mentioned that Radical had just launched the brand new SR3 XX. And one of the big exciting pieces of news of that is that with the introduction of all the latest AIM systems in that car, which includes the new PDM and also the beautiful new Formula 4 steering wheel, which is the Radical is actually the first time that wheel's being used. More data at the fingertips for the drivers, but more correlation to the sim. So now you can take the data that you're pulling from inside a race like this and overlay it with your real-world data on the AIM software. And I think drivers will be doing that a lot more. I certainly know that just from sort of getting that muscle memory of which way the track goes, the simulators like iRacing are so good that the detail, little things like bumps in the racetrack, the way that curbs are, you can start to pick your braking markers, start to set up how you're going to drive a lap around here, and I think it will be a huge help to the drivers that have competed this weekend. Of course, we've also got some racing in the SCCA June sprints this weekend as well, so getting some real-world track time before they head off to our event next weekend.
It's Chris Short, and he's making a move on Tad Cusack, who has been struggling a little bit. I really do think he should have probably come in and got himself a fresh car, and just make it much easier for him at this point, I think. And because I mean, there's nothing worse when you can't relax even down the straights because the car's wobbling about on you. And the one thing as well, as Stevens takes the lead on the main straight, so Stevens goes through, and let's see if he can make a break. I doubt it, but we'll see. These two seem very evenly matched. That's the thing with the sim versus the real world is, iRacing. The wonderful thing about iRacing is the tracks are laser scanned to 2 millimeters or thereabouts of precision, and so if a bump is there on the sim, it will be there in real life, especially around this Road America circuit, which we didn't really speak about it too much, but this is a new version of the track for this week, isn't it? Or last week, I think it came in. So this is a current version of Road America as we presumably can get.
Absolutely, and timely that we're heading there next weekend. It was amazing to see some of the differences. We launched the new XX on R Factor 2, and a great event had by a number of the drivers from around the world experiencing that car for the first time virtually the other week, and you'll get to see the highlights of that soon, that special event. But it is interesting.
To try it?
I have, and I must say the SR3 on R Factor 2, it really does remind me of an SR3 in real life, because it's so easy to catch and kind of play with the car, and that confidence. It's just really confidence inspiring, and that's what's great about these cars in the real world, is you can get behind the wheel of an SR1, our entry-level car, or the SR3, the car that is the world's most popular racing car, really. It's nearly 1,300 sold now and racing around the world, and so popular at the country clubs. And that's because you get behind the wheel of a Radical, and you can be sort of miles off the pace, 10 minutes off the pace, let alone 10 seconds or 10 tenths. The car
Have you been videoing
really
my laps?
So I just watched Alex Ellis take the lead again into turn 1. And Ellis now has the work to do. You can see Mackay Stevens looking racy behind him as they head down into the corner that leads onto this long straightaway down into turn 5. There's a little bit of a kink here as we go under the Sargentino Bridge. And of course, one of our Radical racers, Jim Booth, had a massive accident in Ferrari Challenge a few years ago here down into this. And we're so pleased that Jim was okay after that, because he's racing again. It's horrific, absolutely horrific accident, massive spin and crash, and Jim had to spend a lot of time.
You've seen the one at Have you seen the one at Sebring where the guy lost his brakes and he had to drive outside the track and then come back in to actually get back on the track?
Yeah, I did. I actually saw that the other week.
And he had to go through. He almost had to go through the toll booth. I think they even tried to charge him money to get back in.
Yeah, that was.
I don't think he'd have any on him in the car.
That's right. Sorry, I don't have my ticket, but I'm ready to go. Yeah, Jim Booth will actually be racing in a 1340 SR3 next week. So nice. He's. I think he's owned just about every radical. He's been racing in England as well. His son and he came over and did the European Masters Series a few years ago as well, and really impressed in that. And
there's another dodgy rear wing, Tom. Keith Carter.
Yeah, Keith Carter. So he's. I wonder when that happened. Keith Carter in the number 29. He's in 4th place. And
no, that's not the Keith Carter who I think was involved at the start. I think that was Canadian Keith Carter.
And while this is happening, Buddha Singh now in a solid 3rd place, just kind of by themselves, coming up the front straightaway as Mackay Stevens and Ellis keep swapping the lead here. So, and I can see on board with Ellis, he's having another go.
So my next question to you was going to be, at what point are these two going to throw the gloves off, and at what point are we going to have a big old battle for the win?
I sort of tend to think they already are, mate. I think that they're already vying for this pretty hard. It's down into turn 5, side by side. That's classy stuff. Beautiful stuff by Alex Ellis. How does he keep it? In the lead, just around the outside. And look at that. Just shuts the door. So Ellis saying, come on, Mackay, what can you do? I'm going to commit to the corner. That was beautiful. That was Formula One stuff. You know, just imagine someone like Hamilton just saying, come on, are you going to commit up the inside? Because I'm on my racing line. I'm sticking with it. And just great stuff. So Ellis now around the carousel. And down into that kink.
Well, I've got 2 Australians in the commentary box with me, so I'd say that was a fair dinkum move, wouldn't it be?
Absolutely.
That was
absolutely.
It was and beautiful. There's some traffic now, which, as we know from Canadian Tire, traffic doesn't always make things better, so we'll see what happens.
No, and it was Ellis that got caught up in that as well, so Ellis just has to be patient. Just has to be patient. You don't want to get mixed up in this. Well, and he does make it around the outside, so that was good. I think hopefully we'll see Mackay Stevens.
Where's Stevens gone?
I don't know, mate. I think he's...
Has he disappeared or did he crash? I didn't see... Oh!
So what has happened to Stevens? It says he's out on the timing. Hopefully we can get a replay of that. So somehow, I think Stevens got caught up in this... in the back marker. Surely not.
I must admit, I glanced away for a second, but I don't know. Here we go. Here's the replay, Tom.
So what happens? So Ellis does a good job around the outside. Mackay Stevens just disappears.
Oh, connection issues. Such a shame. That's such a shame. Oh, he's back, but he's
devastating.
Oh no, he's not. He's not back. I thought he was back. But yeah, he's just dropping down and down the order. He looks like he's had a disconnection. That is unbelievably terrible look for Mackay Stevens. Alex Ellis then, Tommy's got 3.5 minutes, 2 laps to take the 40 points. Unfortunately for him, it's not going to give him a title, but 40 points for him would put him most likely to 2nd place overall.
That's what I was just looking at too. It's going to be tight, isn't it? Because Tranter's going to get a few points for 9th place, but Ellis, I must say that...
8th place now, because he's just gone ahead of Stevens.
So Tranter's slowly moving up. You know, it's one of those things, isn't it? As we see a car on the side of the track I was just watching the onboard from Ellis, and Ellis just has to be so careful now. So who was that? Patrick Jarman into the wall there. And Ellis missed him. But Jarman just had a moment all by himself. and doesn't have a car that looks completely wonderful and gets a little bit of grass on the outside and just runs wide. It was a nice slide, but straight into the gravel trap, and then just has to wait to get back on circuit. Ellis just has to be so calm and collected as we now look at Dan Webster.
That's like how Bob Marley likes his donuts. We're jamming. There you go. Don't say we don't give the quality content on this on these broadcasts. Kamari Odom has made a place, but his car was in all sorts of state. Dave Tweedley, I hope when Dave Tweedley comes to this circuit next week that his car's in better shape than that, Tom, because I wouldn't fancy having to drive that one around far. That's somehow got worse, I think, since we last saw it.
Yeah, I don't know how, but you're right. I mean, it just looks like a horrible thing. Dave Tweedley has run radicals for many, many years. He can probably drive a radical SR8 in his sleep, I think, and that's probably the experience in the real world that's just making him deal with whatever he's got inside the cockpit at the moment. And as I said, he had a massive moment when a tyre got cut down last year, and he's had a bit of a moment now into Canada corner, but he keeps it.
I can't believe he hasn't pitted, Tom, because surely he's lost more time by not pitting in and getting a fresh car than he has by staying out. Surely he has.
Surely, but he's still inside the top 10, so
he is.
Slow and steady. It may not win the race, but it will certainly get you a top 10, perhaps. Just a quick word about Mark Tranter, actually. Just as obviously it doesn't look like he's going to be able to take the title. He has had a good campaign, and ordinarily, I think if you gave me 13th place start on the grid and you told me I was going to finish 8th, I'd take that every time, I think. Well, absolutely, and Tranter has been really impressive in this series. I tell you, the other one, the young lad Tom Mills, who, it was a little bit of sort of controversy last week as he took his maiden win, and certainly there was a bit of argy-bargy, a little bit of contact. Mills was quite adamant after the race that he didn't make the contact. A few other drivers dispute that claim. But I'm impressed that he's up to 4th place now as well.
Commentators maybe as well.
Yeah, well, we didn't give him the benefit of the doubt. Look, it's really hard, isn't it? It's easy to be the armchair critic, and of course, the pressure that these guys are on. It's not just. I think for some of those that are watching at home, you sort of think, oh well, these guys are in there. Some of them are in their lounge rooms. They might be wearing their sleepwear. They're just sort of at home with a cup of tea in hand and driving with the other, but it's not the case. This is as serious and as intense as any real motor race. The guys will be dripping sweat. They'll be stressing out. They're Alex Ellis. This is not easy for him. He's not in cruise control mode. He's trying to remain calm and keep hitting his marks. And how does he do that? It's not like he's got that car in front to chase down, or the little bit of pressure that from behind that sometimes makes it easier, believe it or not. You've got someone, you're sort of in a rhythm. You're in the groove, and that all became disrupted when we had those guys bow out. So now Ellis just has to go ahead.
Luckily for him, there's no one ahead of him as he approaches the final corner of the race, Tom.
Well, that's it. So he's already weaving in celebration. And Alex Ellis, he's done a tremendous job. Held off a lot of pressure. And congratulations to Alex Ellis, who takes the win, the final race of this first inaugural season. And he's having some big moments down the straightaway. I'm sure he'd be pumping his fist in real life, in the bedroom, or wherever he is. Congratulations, too, to Christian Budasing, who's taken 2nd place. Keith Carter now looks like he'll be 3rd place.
Yeah, and Carter, he started 16th. That's not going to stop him coming home and getting a little bit of the bubbly in 3rd. Carter, his car is a mess, but he's driven it well, still lapping fairly decently given the damage. And Keith Carter from Illinois comes home in Wisconsin and takes 3rd place. Tom Mills is going to take 4th position. The Brit and another Brit, Darrell Taylor, in P5. And a good race for David Jarvis, Tom, from the back of the grid. We know he was caught up early on. He's had to play catch-up big time, but the second half of the race he's driven about as well as anybody out there.
Absolutely, and just great to see so many nationalities represented inside the top 10. David Jarvis, 6th place, comes up the hill for the final time. It's such a big hill, this one. If you haven't been to Road America, it's you can't see over the crest. It's quite amazing because you're just pulling gears out of the final corner, and it just goes on forever. And you do sort of start to contemplate your terminal velocity as you go down into turn 1. You sort of start to think, well, right, this is pretty serious now. I'm in 6th gear and probably just clicking down to 4th or 5th to take turn 1, and gritting your teeth as you do. Cyril just waiting because someone's doing donuts in front of him celebrating. I must say, I love to see that in iRacing. It's I wish we saw it sometimes in real life a little bit more. Sometimes you think the celebration, the colour of racing's just been taken out of it occasionally, and it's lovely to see when drivers do some donuts in the runoff areas after a race.
I think it's so much to do with as well, people passing technical checks, scrutineering, things like that. Unfortunately, that means that there needs to be a certain amount of tread left on the tires. There needs to be a certain amount of fuel in the tank, and unfortunately for the drivers, it means that they can't really go out and celebrate the win massively well. But yeah, we've had a great meeting here today. We've had a great time in this Radical Cup iRacing Invitational, and terrific way to finish up Road America. It's always a fantastic place to come. And here's the results on the screen. Alex Ellis takes the win, and it was by 11 seconds in the end. It looks really, really easy, but he had competition all the way through from Webster and then from Stevens, and unfortunately neither of them made it to the end, at least at the front. But I think in second place, brilliant drive from the man from Trinidad and Tobago, Keith Carter in third. That's the American Keith Carter, and then Tom Mills ahead of Darrell Taylor, David Jarvis, and Canadian Keith Carter finished 7th. Cyril Stanke was 8th, and 9th for Mark Tranter. Dave Tweedley in 10th, Chris Short in 11th. He was the first car a lap down. And then Joshua Peacock, Michael Anzaldi, Tad Cusack, Paul Clark, Kamari Odom, Marcus Zunker was 17th. And then the cars who finished more than one lap down or didn't finish the race, we had Dan Webster out, Patrick Jamin out, Stevens, Disconnection, Brown out, Crab, Franco, Law, and Sotelo. And Tom, we had that. It was a melee at the beginning, and not many people managed to come through it unscathed. But a few of them did, and we're gonna get a word with a couple of the drivers, I think now. Any preference of who you want to speak to, Tom?
Well, look, let's see if we can get Mark Tranter in the box there. We'll just find out what he had, what kind of issues he had, because he definitely didn't have his usual pace, did he?
No, here he is.
So, Mark, welcome to the commentary box. A tough day in the office today, mate. A bit of pressure on if you were going to get that championship win, but it just seemed like you were struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I made a dog's dinner of qualifying, and so that wasn't a true representation of the pace that I had. And then at the start, there was a sort of car park of cars in front of me, and I backed up, but the guys behind didn't see that, and that took me out, and sort of managed to fast repair. Thought that after that there was still a good chance of getting a good result, and unfortunately there was a few back markers that sort of used me as a punching bag from that point onwards. So unfortunate.
It was unfortunate, but it's been a great run that you've had in this inaugural season. Overall, you must be pretty pleased. I mean, it you've had some really, really strong results. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a good series for me. I think last week was the only real race where my true pace was shown. I think I've had either issues with other people or taking myself out at all the other 5 rounds. So yeah, it could have been a lot better than it ended up being. But yeah, we'll learn from those mistakes and we'll move on.
Well, mate, we hope to have another season soon. So good luck in the real world this year. Can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be running and when you're getting back out on track?
So I'll be out in my SR1 at some point this year, but with everything that's gone on, I'm just not sure when that's going to be. Getting time off work is going to be quite difficult. So yeah, we'll just have to see. There's a round where the SR1s are joining the SR3s at Silverstone. That's my home race, so that's something that I'm targeting. And apart from that, we'll just have to see what falls in the right way.
We look forward to seeing you out there at Silverstone, and we'll say goodbye for now. Solid job today, mate. And if we can, we'll try and bring in the winner, or I don't see the winner yet, but perhaps we can bring in Mackay Stevens.
Yeah, let's bring him in and see what he has to say. Mackay, welcome to the commentary box, mate. Bad luck. I take it was just a disconnection, was it?
That would be absolutely correct. It was one in which was highly frustrating, but yet the brighter days hopefully ahead.
Well, it was going
Mackay,
pretty well until that point. Sorry, Tom.
No, that's all right, mate. It's hard, isn't it, when we're across the pond? I was just going to say, Mackay, awesome battling out there. It was just a pleasure to watch. You guys were just dicing for the lead. It seems like you were swapping 2 times, 3 times a lap sometimes.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I mean, massive shout out to Mr. Alex Ellis and also Dan Webster, who we unfortunately lost in the earlier part of the race. But with Alex, we just kind of parted the seas a few times and then traded places. Tried to keep her on track and was gearing up for quite the battle in the closing laps. But the good old internet and technology had another plan in stow.
I mean, I guess in racing, anything that can happen will happen was what Murray Walker used to say. And, you sometimes have these frustrating days when something happens, the 20-cent part fails, and you've done everything right. And you certainly did everything right today. But again, just take us through what it's like being in the virtual cockpit. When you guys are racing side by side, it was wonderful to see the how close you would get, but the respect both of you had through places like turn 5 and those next corners where you're trying to work out, there was an intimidation factor, sure. You're trying to work out what, if you could go through side by side, and sometimes you sort of close the door on each other a bit, but it was just really respectful racing.
Yes, absolutely. In credit to what you said, and to further highlight respect. I mean, and that is what the sport, I think, needs more of, if I may say so. And that's what allows for incredible racing and to accept sometimes that you have, in fact, gotten beaten to a corner. And that happened on a few occasions. And I think between myself, Alex, and Webster, when he was on board with us, it was having that mutual respect for what is the perceived outcome and not trying to overstep the bounds and keep the lines pretty clear in the sand. Granted, those lines get a little blurry when the white flag comes out, but we got to get there first.
Yeah, well, again, it was great stuff. Congratulations! It's been fun to have you on board. Will you be coming up to Road America next week to see the action in real life?
I will certainly be doing my best. I have one other prior commitment with an inner city youth motorsport program in which I mentor. But if we can get the good old Volkswagen going from Indianapolis to Wisconsin, I'll be sure to join you guys.
Well, that program sounds like a fantastic one as well. Thanks for being a part of this series. I know that we'll be watching you in the real world as well. So good luck with all of that, and And hopefully we'll see you on the iRacing or the R Factor soon.
Yes, absolutely. I want to thank yourselves, Blue Marble Radical, all the supporting staff, in which have made this a seamless yet exceptionally enjoyable opportunity. So you guys all be well, and I'll catch you next time.
Fantastic. Well, who have we got there as well? Perhaps we can see if we can get Kamari, possibly Kamari Odom in the commentary box, and we can have a chat about that start.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I want to grab a word with Keith Carter as well, if it's the right one. If he's the one that finished third, that's we want to talk to him before we go as well. I think we've got time for probably Kamari and then one more.
All right. Well, Kamari, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
So, Kamari, look, mate, it was a tough race at the start. So take us back to that start and that chaos that unfolded as you were heading up the main straight to take the green.
Well, of course. Well, it was a really really bad start. A lot of parked cars everywhere, trying to just stay away from the carnage, and I managed to move out of it. But once everybody hit my car, it was pretty much done after that. I just tried to get the best finish as much as I can.
It looked like you almost got away with it, but we couldn't quite tell if you received a little bit of damage off the start there. What's it like driving this thing with a little bit of damage? Because we've seen a few of the cars crab down the straightaways in the race today.
Well, when you have wheel damage, it kind of sort of, it's almost like it messes up your wheel. So it really messes up your flow. Downforce is messed up, everything. So your whole flow, your laps are a lot longer. Speed is a lot slower. Everything is just skewed.
Well, we're watching some super slow-mo on board with your car. It looks like a sprint car with stagger. The amount of angle on the wing and everything else. So, again, it was a hard day for a lot of you guys that got caught up in that start line incidents. But again, we thank you for being a part of this series, and hopefully we'll see you out at Atlanta Motorsport Park soon, perhaps, and back in the Primal Racing School cars.
It's definitely the plan, and I just want to say thank you guys again for allowing me to be in the championship. Thank you to Radical. Thank you for everything in the championship. Thank you for all that you guys do to allow all of us the opportunity to actually race these cars in real life. And thank you to Blue Marble Cup, and hopefully I get to race with you guys at some point soon.
Well, we'll certainly welcome you to the series if you get the opportunity, and we'd love to have you a part of it. So thanks, mate, and hopefully we'll see you at a racetrack soon. We've got a little bit of time left, so let's see if we can bring in Keith Carter. Andrew, take it away.
Yeah, Keith, first of all, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes. Well, welcome to the commentary box. Now, obviously, the question on everybody's mind, which Keith Carter are you? Are you the one who finished third?
I am. I'm the one that finished third, luckily, and I'm the American Keith Carter. So
there you go. That's your full name now. That's your legal name by default. Thanks for joining us anyway. Third place. I bet you didn't think that when you started 16th on the grid, did you?
No, not at all. I mean, there's always that remote possibility that everybody could crash out and kind of part the way, and that what happened. So,
so what was your view of all that? And after the chaos had subsided, how did you get down to business for the rest of the race?
So the start, I got a good jump on the start. It was a slow start, and I rarely ever try to start a race in first gear, but for whatever reason, it was overly slow. I got a jump and made my way through a few cars, and I noticed that there was a pack, maybe 3, possibly 4 wide for some reason, and they just got to banging into each other, and things
Yeah,
got loose.
I think that was the other Keith Carter. It was in the middle of that because we were on board with him, and he got sandwiched, from both sides, and and then it all went to hell. So were you behind that then, or were you ahead of that?
I was behind that. That was right going under the starting tower, and kind of the rule of go where they are because they won't be there soon, and that worked. And I found a little bit of a gap, made it through that bit of a mess, and then still I think on the outside of I think it was lap 1, on the outside of 3 I think there was another accident that I made it through, had a little bit of contact, but I still made it through without much damage. And then from there on out there was a huge gap behind me and a huge gap in front of me. The lead pack pulled away pretty steadily, and didn't really think that I was going to be able to catch him without any luck on my side, any more luck on my side. And yeah, just kind of kept consistent, tried to stay consistent, and not make any huge screw ups, and kind of watch my mirrors as the clock was ticking down, and it worked in my favor. I ended up here.
So after the after the accident, then we see that you had some damage. How did it affect the handling of the car throughout the race? Because it looked like, did you have slight wheel damage at all? It looks like maybe slightly pulling to one side.
It wasn't pulling, but the car did push quite a bit in the faster stuff. So I did probably lose a little bit of my front aero, because turn 3 I was suffering quite a bit, and Canada corner I was suffering quite a bit.
Rear wing's quite badly bent, from what we can see anyway on the replay as we're watching on the stream now.
Oh, didn't feel. I mean, it did feel a little bit slower. I didn't know for whatever reason, but yeah, it just tried to hang in there.
So in terms of the I mean, Tom might be in a better position to ask you about your plans for, if you're going to be driving the real cars at all this year.
I plan the track, as you know, I'm instructing out at Autobahn under Team Stradale. Mackay and I both are. He's my peer in that regard, and things are opening back up. So we plan to start doing a little bit more instructing here and there. But yeah, normally this is actually June Sprints weekend in the States, so we would have been at Road America this weekend in real life. But yeah, we haven't been racing much recently. So but yeah, staying in the SR3s and doing some instructing under Stradale, it gives me the opportunity to get back on track and do some coaching. So.
Well, Keith, Tom Drewer from Radical, just want to thank you for being a part of this series. And you mentioned all of the fact that you're involved, giving instruction with our dealers. And for those that are listening, you can get involved in real world radical racing and get instruction from the likes of Keith Carter and Mackay Stevens, and their peers from different radical dealers. All of the radical dealers run demo cars and offer coaching services, a full plethora of racing services. So it's really easy to turn up with the helmet and get behind the wheel of a radical, and whether that's a track day or country club racing or the full-blown Radical Cup, SCCA as well, NASA, and of course in England the equivalent series as well. So it's pretty easy to get behind the wheel of a radical and start your motor racing career. But I guess Andrew, we should probably wrap things up here, given that we've gone a few moments past.
Indeed.
We're happy to be going racing at Road America next weekend. That is the first round of the Blue Marble Radical Cup in North America. Of course, we're also going racing July 4th at Snetterton for the SR1 Cup. July 25 at Alton Park for the SR3 Radical Challenge. And racing opening up around the world. Guys out at the track in Canada as well that I know of. I know that everyone is itching to get back behind the wheel. So for those out there that are listening, we're looking forward to supporting your motorsport this year from all of us at the factory, for those guys that are building the cars, to the technical support that support the drivers from afar, and receive the data and work out any niggles or perhaps just give a performance tip. We thank you for being a part of this, the Radical family, and we look forward to seeing you at a track soon.
Yeah, and from our point of view with Apex Racing TV, we've absolutely loved being in partnership with you guys, Radical Sports Cars. Tom, it's been a pleasure working with you, mate, over the past so many weeks, and hopefully it won't be the last time.
Andrew, it's been a pleasure as well, and a big shout out to Scott Newton as well for bringing us all the action.
Oh yeah.
Look, from me, I'll sign off and leave you to it. But thank you once again. Thanks for watching the inaugural Radical Cup iRacing Invitational. Of course, get behind the wheel of the, legacy or historic SR8 here in iRacing. If you want to check out the brand new SR3 XX, download R Factor and you can try out the brand new car with the brand new AIM steering wheel and all the electronic goodies. And you can even download the data from both of those systems and test it out in the AIM software just as you would in a real Radical out there on the circuit. So thanks again. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Scott.
And one thing from me before we go, which we didn't mention, Zachary Woolen is the overall champion of the series with 132 points and the one win along the way. So congratulations to him. And we do believe Alex Ellis has managed to just about get second, but I'm sure we'll confirm that for you on one of the Radical Facebook pages at some point. So thank you very much for everybody who's watched this series, and to Tom, to Scott, and to the drivers for making it what it was. We've enjoyed it. We hope you have too. And from all of us here at Apex Racing TV, this has been the Radical Cup iRacing Invitational. I've been Andrew Woodhouse, and it's good night.